in the introduction, you said that we have a natural tendency to be egocentric and sociocentric, and natural tendency to be irrational in certain respects. And one of the things I like about that is that a way people often defend their actions or justify their actions is by saying that it's natural, as if that's the end answer. But it's natural to do that. And the fact that something is natural doesn't at all mean that it's rational. We're the product of biological, social development all over the place, and so natural doesn't equal rational. Sometimes natural equals irrational. There's something that does seem fairly natural about taking the largest piece of cake, but that doesn't mean that it's okay. Yeah. So
that's right. So
Mhm.
I think that the natural resting place
Mhm.
of the human mind, where we haven't been focused on self-development, we're not very aware of our own tendencies in any of these irrational directions.
Mhm.
Natural resting place is that I'm largely self-deceived.
Yeah.
That, like, if you think of your mind as a rubber band and it's stretching and then it comes back to its resting place,
Mhm.
when it comes back to its resting place, I think it's mainly the egocentric and sociocentric.
Right.
It's leaning in that direction. And of course, it's that's again oversimplifying, because it depends on what part of your life you're focusing on. You may be, and probably are, more rational in certain parts of your life than others. Other parts of your life, this is very
Mhm.
natural as well. So you see, it's complex. But we want to get into these complexities, and we don't want to oversimplify them. But still, we need some patterns that we can be aware of.
Yeah, and one of the things you mentioned as you went through it just seems to me to be a good key into my own behavior, and that is how am I being self-deceived at this moment, right? I mean, it could even be a kind of a guiding principle. In most of the time when I'm not thinking something through, there's a good chance I'm being self-deceived. So let me step back from the immediate situation and look for my own self-deception. And I
Mhm.
think that that's even stronger than that. The more impulsive I feel, the more urgent I feel to do X, Y, or Z, other things being equal, not when there's a fire, but the other things being equal, the more urgent and imperative and emotionally heavily laden it is, the more desirable it is to step back and ask myself, how might I be being self-deceived in this situation? Uh,
Mhm.
and how might sociocentrism or egocentrism be entering my behavior, my thinking, feeling, or wanting? Yeah.
It's so true, and yet it's amazing how you can work with these concepts for many years, as students will tell me, and that I will reiterate back to them.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you can work and work and work and think, okay, now I'm basically rational, and basically I make good decisions, and then
Uh-huh.
a few minutes later, you make what you could just say was a mistake, but was it really? Did
Mm-hmm.
did you think it through?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Was there a little intellectual arrogance sneaking
Mm-hmm.
in? Oh, I've got this covered. Oh, I don't really need to look that up, or I don't need to verify that.
Mm-hmm.
See, and that's so our egocentricity can be functioning again at a kind of almost light level. What I want to make sure people understand is you have to find, again, your own ways of commanding your irrational side.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to be hopefully helping a bit ourselves and you figure this out. That is how we command ourselves better, because it's not a challenge that you resolve and then you have it resolved. So okay, now thank you for the podcast. I'm now a rational person. It's something that we have to work at on a daily basis,
Mm-hmm.
and we frequently surprise ourselves as to how irrational we may be, no matter what theory we think we understand. So we need, I think, as we develop the executive function of our minds, as we develop our criticality,
Mhm.
a big piece of this is understanding how our rational mind can be, I don't like to use the word taken over or hijacked by the
Mhm.
irrational side, but it can feel like that and it can act like that. But in fact, we as rational persons are in command of ourselves. We must be responsible for commanding ourselves. And this will be required if we're ever to achieve fair-minded critical societies.
Right. Yeah.
We've all got to embrace these realities, not to, in order to understand them. And we've got to embrace this theory in order to be able to intervene in the dark side of the mind. So you can say it's in the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde analogy, it's the Mr. Hyde side.
Mhm.
In the you can use the term dark side. We all have a dark side. What does that dark side do?
Mhm.
If you don't like analogies and you want to think just within examples, well, what are you doing that is harming someone else?
Mhm.
What are you doing that is dishonest? I
Mhm.
mean, just stop lying to yourself.
Mhm.
So what I'm saying is you've got to have ways to talk to yourself, which are rational ways, not beating yourself up, but being aware of these irrational forces that we'll be talking about, that we are talking about in this series.
Mhm.
So everyone, all of us should think about analogies that may help us think about the examples in our own lives where we're not telling ourselves the truth in any direction that may be.
Mhm.